Hello everyone. Today let's discuss about Apache Spark, a parallel processing framework for distributed environment. Okay, so let's get started. Most of the tech companies, other companies which is dealing with huge amount data, use Apache Spark for their parallel processing workloads. Okay, you name it, either Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere. All these companies depends upon Apache Spark for parallel processing framework as a parallel processing framework. Okay, so what's so special about Apache Spark? Why it is the best framework for doing all these type of pipelining or running all these type of data flows? Okay, so to understand that, let me take you back to the way when the Hadoop was very new and it became popular. So why was Hadoop popular? When Hadoop came some time back, at that time they introduced a framework called MapReduce. Okay, what MapReduce does? It is a parallel processing framework. It runs your code across different servers, and then it gives you the required output. Okay, so previously people were depend upon single server. Now since when the Hadoop comes in, it is a distributed environment and they keep adding more servers, and then the MapReduce framework was able to run your huge amount of data. That data is distributed across different servers, and MapReduce was able to run all those logics or code across those servers. That was it was popular for that. But but there was this problem with MapReduce program. What was that? Okay, when a mapper, so MapReduce program has two different phases: map phase and reduce phase. Okay, the mapper is the one which do the initial processing and all, and then reducer is the final stage where it takes the output from mapper and provide the final output. But the problem is that when the mapper phase is finished, it put data into the intermediate storage, either into a disk or into the shared location. It store all data into the disk, but not disk. So when we talk about reducer try to pick up all this data from the disk. Okay, if they want to do a processing from multiple server, if all the mappers are running across multiple server, then all those multiple servers mapper program need to write into an intermediate space, and then reducer will pick up from there and then do the final stage. Okay, so there are a lot of other things in between. But the important point was that this is the data which I was storing. It was in a disk, and that was creating a lot of latency. It was creating a lot of IOs requests. It was creating a lot of latency to process it, and then there are a lot of shuffling involved. All these things were adding up to the time it is taking to finish a job. Okay, so Spark was built to get rid of this problem. Okay, so they the engineers built a framework. It was sometime 2009 when there are some set of engineers in UC Berkeley labs. They built up a framework which, instead of doing things into the disk, they were storing everything into the memory and doing the processing in that memory. This provide a huge benefit on latency perspective, on scaling perspective, on the perspective to do a less amount of storage and to do a better fault tolerance. So this provided along a big benefit on that. So Spark instantly got popular. Okay, so in 2013 it became as a top Apache project. Okay, so we could start using Apache Spark, and since then Apache Spark has evolved a lot. There are a lot of automation added and a lot of things which have been done. Okay, so this is the history of how Apache Spark is. Okay, let's go to the understanding the architecture of Spark, how exactly it works and what are different components in it. So let's talk about different components. So there are three important components for Apache Spark. One is driver, other is a cluster manager, and third is an executor. Okay, so Apache Spark also follow a master-slave architecture, where is a one master program, and then there are multiple worker program where data is being handled by the master program and distributed across all those workers to do the actual job to run those code. Okay, it runs a code, produces output, and it will give it back to the user. So similar thing is being followed by Spark in the master slave architecture. Whenever request comes from a user, or whenever you submit a Spark application, creates a driver program. Driver program is the one which is handling the user input, which is handling the scheduling or monitoring of the job where it is, and at which stage the executor is running the job. Okay, so the driver program is the important one which is an entry point for any Spark application. Now let's talk about cluster manager. Cluster manager is a framework which handle the cluster, the distributed cluster. Okay, so Spark itself doesn't handle those things, means unless it is running a standalone mode. But if it is using the cluster mode, it depends upon the cluster manager. Okay, this cluster manager give Spark that, okay, or tell Spark that, okay, what are the resources, okay, which are available. So cluster manager job is to provide the resources which is needed by a driver program to run it. So once the driver submits a request, so it talks to cluster manager to understand that what are the available executors or what are the available resources I can use to run my program. So cluster manager does that job. Executor, now come to executor. Executor is the one which is actually executing the job, which is doing the actual job of running those code. Okay, so now we understand these three components. So let's get one more point deeper into it, how exactly the cluster manager holds these things and how exactly it provides those information. So assume that driver sends a request, then driver sends a request to a cluster manager. Cluster manager, so Spark actually support multiple cluster managers. So cluster manager can be a Yarn based cluster manager, it can be Mesos based, or it can be Spark standalone cluster manager. Okay, so this Yarn based cluster manager is when you talk about most in the Hadoop based architecture, it's all depend upon the Yarn based cluster manager. Okay, we call it a yet other resource manager. Then Yarn based cluster manager. So if in this example I'll talk about Yarn based cluster manager. So when the Spark driver sends request to this cluster manager, so this in Yarn we call it as a resource manager. So assume the request goes to the resource manager. Resource manager talk to the executor. Now on each executor there is a node manager running. Okay, so node manager provides them information that, okay, if what all available resources I have, it will return back to the resource manager. Okay, so assume that, okay, driver sends a program to a resource manager. It's step 1. Step 2, and driver also telling that, okay, I need this container size based on the data which I want to run. So based on that information, resource manager asks the node manager, okay, can you give me a block with 1 GB RAM and 1 CPU, 1 core CPU. So that information it talks to all the node manager and gets all those information. So whoever node manager say that, okay, I have available resources for you, it return back those information to the resource manager. Now out of those, we call it as a containers. Out of those containers provided by the executor, mentioned by executor, these are the things available with me. So those container, resource manager, one container, it initiate a application master. So application master is nothing, it's a program which is handling all these things. So it initiate a program called application master in one of the container. Remaining container, it distributes the jobs, whatever job needs to be done on that servers. Okay, so this is the way Spark things work onto the node manager. Now this the executor, the job, actual job, what we call into that container, we call it the task. So these many tasks which runs on each of the executors. So this is all the architecture of the Spark, how exactly it works. Okay, now let me talk to, so this way it the things works, okay, for Spark, the flow and all. So but let me take you one level deep where we talk about the core component, how exactly if I submit any application for Spark, how exactly it is converting and how exactly it is processing it. Okay, so Spark has multiple components which we call it as Spark Core, Spark MLib, Spark Streaming, Spark SQL, and GraphX. So Spark support all these, Spark have all these different components. Today we will talk about Spark Core itself, which is the which is actually responsible for doing all those parallel processing. So the Spark Core, so there's a low level API when we call the Spark is that the API is called RDD. So the core framework, it's not API actually, the code thing which is called RDD, called Resilient Distributed Database. Okay, why it's called Resilient Distributed Database? So RD are the base of any Spark. It's a base for the Spark framework. So its name means, with the name you can understand Resilient Distributed Database. The resilient is short-lived. So this component is very short-lived. It's distributed, like it can run across different servers, and it's a data set. So this is the component which holds some data or holds some information. Okay, so understand that this is the RD concept in Spark. Okay, so now assume that, okay, I have created some I have written some code in Spark, like x equal to Spark context sc means dot Spark session, which I mentioned. So Spark context dot get me some file. Okay, get file means I'm not going to syntax, but I'm just mentioning. So if I written one line of the code, okay, that line is treated as a ID. So you assume that line when you write this line in a Spark context, it creates a ID for that. Okay, now how will take as a, how will think this as a RDD. Assume that I have a 3 different servers. Okay, the base for those is the HDFS. Okay, HDFS is storing all those. The storage system is HDFS. Spark doesn't handle any storage and all. Okay, so storage system is HDFS, it's distributed system. Okay, so then when Spark when you write this command x equal to Spark context or get me a file, so this x created ID. This ID is nothing but a block in a memory. So it's in that servers, it creates a block across different executor. Okay, this block is called RD block. So these blocks correspond to a data which is there into the database. So the file which you're trying to load into the Spark context, that file, with respect to that file, it creates a ID. So similarly, it creates multiple blocks on each executor. Since a distributed environment, each executor will have small amount of data for that particular file. So the ID got created. So one ID got created for that particular, but this ID is across different executor. Now assume I written one more line, y equal to x dot filter. Okay, so I'm trying to filter some data which I got from the file. That filtration will create another RD. So there is one more RD which got created across the servers. Similarly, if I do anything else, there one more RD gets created. All these RD got created, but none of the RD. So till this point, it is just creating that. Although all those IDs are pointing to the empty block, it is not doing anything because there is no data in that one. It's just an empty block memory location it has created. Now assume that, okay, so these are called the things which you are doing in Spark is called transformation. Okay, so Spark core on RD you can do 2 type of function. One is called transformation and one is called action. So this one, the function which you need is called a transformation function. Where you try and transform data from one place to one form to other form. Transformation doesn't do anything. So if you filter it, you're mapping it, doing changing from one form to the, it doesn't invoke any Spark actual job to run. When you call an action, then actual job gets started. So assume that I call that whatever the final ID I got y dot count or y dot reduce. So count, reduce, all these are operations or action operation. So when you write this one, it automatically start executing the program. So at that point, the execution starts. Okay, that's why it is very resilient. Okay, assume that okay, I have RD at multiple servers. My one of the server goes down. Still, I have a RD there on the other server, and any point of time when I'm executing it, that RD can be regenerated because it will regenerate that RD and then it will process that file. Okay. So this is starting. So all this, when you see RD and all those function, it's a you can visualize as a directed acyclic graph. So when you see in a Spark UI, there is a graph which said okay, first you did this one. It's a just a pipeline. How is it is happening? So first you did RD1, then RD2, then you are actually trying to do a filtration, and then you are trying to do a count. So this is all shown to a DAG. We call it directed acyclic graph, so which is created at the back end, which visualize you that what all things are running. So this is all how it's got created. Okay guys, so this is what I wanted to cover. This is some of the basic concept or some of the architecture of Spark, but there are a lot more things in Spark. We talk about optimization of the how it creates a logical plan, how it creates a physical plan. So all those things, if you read about it, you understand it. But this, I hope this at least get you started on Spark, how exactly it works in the backend, and if you want to read it, or if you want to read more about it, you can read the different books, and then you will be getting a more understanding of Spark. Hope this video is helpful for you to understand the logic of Spark. Next video I am planning to make more on Spark streaming. This is the one of the framework which allows you to do the real-time processing. So don't miss that video. Okay, and hopefully you like this video. So please subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. and that will be all for my side. Okay, thanks a lot guys.